just a stone's thrown away from the Forbidden City, to the south of it and west of Tiananmen. The Qiyu Gate directly faces Beijing Zhongshan Park and the Altar of Land and Grain. Beijing Zhongshan Park was originally the Xingwo Temple during the Liao and Jin dynasties, and was renamed the Wanshi Xingwo Temple in the Yuan dynasty. In the 18th year of the Ming Yongle reign, 1420, the park was built according to the Juli's left ancestral temple, right altar of land and grain principle. The altar of land and grain was where the emperor worships the god of land and the god of grain, and is also a symbol of the emperor's divine rights and the territory of the state. From the 19th year of the Ming Yongle reign, 1421, to the 3rd year of the King Zhuantong reign, 1911, the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties, or their officials, held more than 1,300 ceremonies here. In 1914, the Altar of Land and Grain was converted into a public park and opened to the public. Initially called the Central Park, which was the first public garden in Beijing at that time. In memory of this great pioneer of the Democratic Revolution, the Altar of Land and Grain was renamed Zhongshan Park in 1928. The Maxim Pavilion is a Western-style circular pavilion with 8 pillars, which was built in 1915. The 8 stone pillars of the pavilion were engraved with the sage's maxims, which was called the Maxim Pavilion. Now we are entering the Merry Land, located in the northeast corner of Beijing Zhongshan Park. It is a garden area for tourists to watch the precious goldfish. The Chinese characters corresponding to fish and Merry have similar pronunciations, so the garden is named Merryland, meaning an ornamental fish garden. The raising and display of goldfish in Beijing Zhongshan Park began in 1915. It was the first park in the country to display goldfish. Originally, goldfish were raised by the master who had raised goldfish in the King Palace. In 1917, the scale was expanded with the addition of cement fishing ponds and the purchase of goldfish. By the time it was withdrawn in 1987, there were 34 varieties and 1,200 tails. The goldfish in Beijing Zhongshan was once presented to foreign leaders as a national gift. Evergreen Garden is located on the south side of the Merryland and covers an area of 3,300 square meters. There are 6 tall and straight spruces at the north end of Evergreen Garden. On the west side of the Evergreen Garden is the Altar of Land and Grain. On the north side of the Altar of Land and Grain is the Zhongshan Hall, also known as the Hall of Worship. It is an important architecture on the central axis of the Altar of Land and Grain. The Hall of Worship is a large wooden structure, 5 rooms wide, 3 rooms deep, yellow glazed tiles, single eaves hipped roof, white stone base, no ceiling, exposed beam frame, and dagong, painting dragon's pattern. The Hall of Worship was the place where the emperor offered sacrifices in case of wind and rain. Before the Ming dynasty, all dynasties had the Hall of Worship. Ming Emperor Taizhou Yuanzhong felt that such a lost imperial prestige. He ordered to build a Hall of Worship. The Hall of Worship is probably the oldest existing Ming Dynasty architecture in Beijing. In 1925, Dr. Sun Yat-sen passed away in Beijing. The Hall of Worship was used as a memorial hall to mourn and commemorate Dr. Sun Yat-sen. In honor of China's great revolutionary forerunner, the Hall of Worship was officially renamed Zhongshan Hall in 1928. The altar of land and grain, also known as the five-colored soil. It was built in the 18th year of the Ming Yongle reign 1420. The altar is square, 3 layers, 0.96 meters high, the upper circumference of 15.95 meters. There are 4 steps on each side, and it is made of blue and white stones. The upper layer is laid with 5-colored soil. According to the East blue, South red, West white, North black, and Middle yellow, commonly known as 5-colored soil, symbolizing under the whole world, not Beijing soil. The center of the altar stands the Shizu stone, also known as Zhongshan stone, which is buried in the soil and is flat with the soil. There are low walls around the altar. When it was built in the early Ming dynasty, it was built with brick walls and painted with 4 colors: blue, red, white, and black. The 21st year of the King Qian long reign, 1756, the Wei Yuan was built with 4-color glazed tiles, which corresponded to the altar. There is a linksing door on each side of the Wei Yuan, made of white stone. Each linksing door original had the linksing red lacquer doors, which no longer exist today. Today, the altar of land and grain is the only national altar existing in China, where Chinese feudal emperors once worshipped the god of land and the god of grain. In Chinese, god of land is Shi, while god of grain is Ji. The emperor regarded the Sheji as a symbol of the country and believed that he was ordered by heaven. The emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties came here to offer sacrifices to the gods of land and grain in early February and August of every Chinese traditional calendar year, praying of a rich harvest and peaceful society. On the west side of the altar of land and grain is the plum garden, one of the best places to enjoy plums in Beijing. The potted plum breeding in Beijing Zhongshan Park has a history of more than 80 years. The plum garden covers an area of 4,000 square meters, and more than 110 plants of 30 kinds of plum blossoms are planted. Different kinds of plum blossom, lingering plum fragrance. Zhongshan Park is a park built in memory of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. From 1925 to 1949, the construction of Zhongshan Park was widely carried out across the country. According to statistics, there are 267 Zhongshan parks built across the country. In addition to Inner Mongolia, Zhejiang, Heilongjiang, other provinces have Zhongshan Park. Zhongshan Park has become the world's largest number of parks of the same name, of which Guangdong has the most, with 57. These Zhongshan parks not only have the recreational and urban landscape functions of general parks. At the same time, it is also an important epitome of China's history in the past 100 years.